Hello, everyone, and welcome to Behind the Bower. I'm Ryan Steffen, the Executive Director for Bower Center for the Arts in beautiful Bedford, Virginia. This podcast is all about inspiring conversations, exploring the arts in our community, and shining a spotlight on the incredible individuals and organizations that make the Bedford area such a vibrant place. So we are excited today to welcome Jay White, a man who is not new to the nonprofit scene. He wears many hats in multiple nonprofit organizations, but I have invited him here today as the executive director for the Bedford Area Educational Foundation, an organization that was developed to help support education initiatives for the public schools of Bedford County. Welcome, Jay.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm really glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you here too. Jay and I've actually already spent a whole morning together. So we had our annual teacher breakfast at the Bower Center this morning, where we got to talk with school administration, some teachers showing some of the cool things they're doing. But before we get into some of that, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself, Jay.
Well, this is my least favorite topic of conversation is talking about myself. But again, Jay White, I am the executive director of the Bedford Area Educational Foundation. I grew up in Bedford County, graduated from Jefferson Forest High School in 1992, went to college and grad school, and lived in Richmond for about 25 years. And about 5 years ago, I got the call to move back to the area and have been here since then.
So what did you do in that in-between time when you were in the Richmond area?
Oh my gosh, that's a diverse career. I did marketing, public relations. I actually owned a marketing agency. And then when the economy decided to crash in about 2008, 2009, I took the opportunity to go back to VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University, to get a master's degree in gerontology and a doctorate in education. So I have a passion for all things and people who are old, old places, old stories, old animals, all that is old, I love.
And old people, but that's not us quite yet.
Not quite.
We're a couple of years away from that.
I kind of joke and say that, most of us are all between 40 and 100. So
yeah, that's true. So this is a common theme I see with some of my guests here is this call to come back home. So they grow up in Bedford, they're around Bedford, and they leave, and there's something that draws them back home. What drew you back home?
Well, to be perfectly honest, it was, my mother. And, as we age, we sometimes require, different levels of care. And my mother is requiring different levels of care right now. And I am the only one who's here locally. So it made sense for me to come back home. And also, Central Virginia is such an incredible place to be. The mountains, it's a wonderful place to come back to.
Yeah, it's a beautiful area. So you, at this stage in your life, you've definitely dabbled into the nonprofits. What drives you to nonprofit work?
Well, what drives me to nonprofit work is the call to service. And I recently drafted a foreword for a book called A Good and Pleasant Company that's going to be published in 2026 in honor of our nation's 250th anniversary of the American Revolution. And I asked that question when I was writing the foreword is what calls people to service? Is it goodwill? Is it political? Is it, and for every individual who's called to service, the reason is a little bit different. Mine is an ethical imperative. I see causes that need help and I want to help. Yeah. I've always wanted to be a helpful person, not a disruptive person, but a helpful person. And when somebody calls and says, hey, we've got this cause that needs help, I spring into action.
Yeah, I would say I'm the same way. I was 20 years a teacher. And there is something that drives you. We'll talk about teachers here in just a little bit. Something that drives you to feel this just drive to help your students, help your community, help the people around you to become better and great people. And so speaking of that, let's talk a little bit about the Bedford Educational Foundation, which I would say does exactly that. So for anybody who's listening who doesn't know what the Educational Foundation is, can you tell me a little bit about what is the Bedford Area Educational Foundation?
Well, the mission of the Bedford Area Educational Foundation is to support the highest quality public education for students in Bedford County. And we do this in a number of different ways. We develop a strong link between the community and public education. We enhance and enrich education beyond our basic obligation to provide good education that's funded by public revenue. And we really want to provide teacher and student educational enrichment grants. So these educational enrichment grants are the difference between just following what the SOLs require us to do and this innovation. I am personally an experiential learner, so I learn by doing rather than, well, in addition to being taught, I learn by doing. And the grants that we fund do. And they really complement the academic side of things that are being taught in the classroom. I wanted to share our principles, though, the principles that the Bedford Area Educational Foundation operates under. And that is a tangible support for better education that must be ongoing and self-perpetuating. The foundation cannot replace the need for public education because that is tried and true. The community recognizes the benefits of supporting better education for our children and our educators. The educational responsibility for the children of our community belongs to all of us. We are all in this together, and more hands make for lighter lifting. And the community recognizes the value of maintaining an atmosphere of respect and support for our public school teachers. We have to do that because, as you know, Ryan, you taught for 20 years. And if it weren't for public school teachers, where would we be?
Right. I mean, most everybody listening here has been through some kind of formal education. Many of them going through public education, and we are literally creating the next generation through the education that we provide. A couple things that you mentioned there that I would love to highlight. One is that this is not state supported or federally supported. This is privately supported financially, correct?
It is privately supported, and it was developed this way by design. Full disclosure, my father and friends, colleagues started the foundation they started talking about this back in 2000, and the foundation was incorporated in 2002. It received its 501c3 status and very intentionally was designed as a separate nonprofit organization, not part of the school system, so it could remain arm's length. And we could do things outside of, say, a political system. We could be innovative, and we didn't have to really bow down.
Yeah.
And we could pivot when we need to pivot.
Right. And I love that its intention is to support the public education which already exists, not to replace. So, it is not trying to take over, not trying to do anything for anyone. It is an extra boost, particularly for a teacher who has a great vision but not great resources, and to try to help their visions become realized by providing them some support and resources to get those ideas off the ground.
Indeed. And I'm glad you mentioned our annual breakfast this morning, because I was having a sidebar conversation with Justin Tucker, who is the Director of Student Support Services for Bedford County Public Schools. And, we were talking about these programs, and I just said to him that I really appreciated the opportunity to pivot and be helpful, which is what the foundation can do. And when you're outside of the political structure, you can pivot and you can fund innovative things like a comprehensive mental health program and the Connect to Learn program, which during COVID provided funding for families to have internet connectivity so their students could actually still stay connected to learning. So it's that opportunity to be able to pivot pretty quickly that makes the foundation unique.
Yeah, we're going to get into the grants part here in just a minute, because to me, that's a lot of the heavy lifting that the Educational Foundation does. But you talked about the mental health services and the comprehensive mental health services that you all have helped provide. Can you talk a little bit more about that for us?
Sure. I was able to take a look at the results of the 2023 Student Mental Health Climate Survey that the Department of Education conducted, all over Virginia, but looked at the results in Bedford County, and the numbers were very, very concerning. I believe it was 11.3% of students who participated in the survey expressed that they have experienced suicidal ideation. And the numbers about just how profound the mental health issues that students were experiencing after COVID was just a real eye-opener. So we were compelled and called to action. And so what we did was reached out to the Greater Lynchburg Community Foundation and the Bedford Community Health Foundation for funding to try to get K through 5 6 through 8, and then 9 through 12, 3 separate interventions for public school students. And, the interventions look a little bit different, like K through 5 or the Komochis program. And then the 6 through 8 is a separate initiative. And then 9 through 12 is another separate initiative because it's not a mental health is not a one size fits all model. And I'm very proud to say that we were able to, through our sponsors and donors, support about $25,000 to fund these new and innovative programs.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people know this but don't really think about this, that there are these barriers that stand in the way of education. Those barriers might be food insecurity, they might be poverty, but mental health is also one of those things that at least in my experience as a teacher, having the lessons and having the stuff ready to go was only part of the picture. The other part was having a student come into your class with the mindset of being ready to learn. And if you have things such as mental health barriers, they're not ready to learn. That's all that they're focused on. It's all that is consuming their lives at that moment. And so I'm really excited to hear that the foundation is making active steps to try to fix that problem rather than admire the problem.
Indeed. And it resonates on an emotional and an intellectual level, because on an intellectual level, if you have a student who is hungry or sad, they're not going to be able to learn.
Right.
Or it's going to be really impacted. And on the emotional level is, what I learned, and of course this is probably commonsensical, but I've been so, this was not something that I grew up having to experience, the food insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not think about or realize that many times the meals that are provided as part of a public education are the only meals that a student will get.
Right. Exactly. And if a student's hungry, they can't think or they can't focus on anything else. As a teacher, there was always a joke that the bottom right-hand drawer of my desk had anything you needed in it. So it would be school supplies, it would be Band-Aids, it would be feminine hygiene products,
right,
or it would just be a bag of snacks. Because sometimes, if you're just hungry, you can't think about anything else.
And I have to say that is one of the more heartbreaking things. And I know we're going to talk about what we fund in a moment, but when we get the applications to fund supply closets like that, and we can't fund it because we just don't have the resources to fund all of those needs, it's heartbreaking that we can't fund those things.
Yeah, I feel like it's a much more massive project than one foundation can try to take on in one classroom.
Yes.
And if there are any parents out there listening, I want you to know probably half, if not more than half of your students' teachers have the same drawer in their desk.
One of the other statistics that I found very startling is that most public school teachers spend between $750 and $1,000 of their own money every year for these supplies. And I see you adding it up in your head.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I surpassed that sometimes. But regardless, let's talk. We could talk all day about the issues that are there, and I think that the solutions are bigger than we can maybe solve at a small local level. But what I do want to talk about is some of the really great things that we do allow teachers to bring to their students. So one of the primary goals and one of the primary functions of the Bedford Educational Foundation is to provide monies through grants to teachers to do special projects. Tell me a little bit about how that works.
Well, we have 3. We used to have 4, but now we have 3 application periods. So we have grant applications that are due September 1st, November 1st, and March 1st. And what a teacher will do is visit our website at bedfordeducation.com, and we have an online link and parameters, grant guidelines to what we will fund and how we will and how you submit that funding. And then what we do is when we receive the application, we vet it with Dr. Karen Woodford with Bedford County Public Schools, who has been an amazing volunteer for many years. And let me back up one step. Applicants are vetted by the principal of each school first and foremost, and then vetted by Dr. Woodford. And we have a grants review committee who further vets the applications. And then at a board level, 3 times a year, formally 4 times a year, we meet as an organization and see how much money we have, and see what we can fund.
Yeah. Full disclosure, I am on this board, and in those meetings, it kind of comes down to like, how much money do we have and how much money can we give away? So how can we best support some of the best projects that are proposed to us in that application? I know that it's easy because I've read them, but what are some of the questions that you're going to ask a teacher to talk about in their proposal?
Well, some of the questions are really related to innovation and how the money is going to be spent, how the data is going to be measured, and also that the programs are replicable. So these ideas can be shared across classrooms, across schools. So innovation and the ability to be replicable are two of the primary things that we look for.
All right. And so if there are teachers listening, how can they get the application?
By visiting www.bedfordeducation.com, and our application is on our website. And it's, I won't say it's exhaustive because the application itself only takes about 10 minutes to fill out. But I really do encourage teachers and counselors, educators, to be planful and mindful about what you're submitting because it goes through a pretty rigorous vetting process.
I know you told us. It just bears to say it twice, so they can remember how they do that. How many applications would you say you generally receive in an application cycle?
Oh, it really does vary. We've received as little as 5, and we've received 35 in one period. I know in 2024 we received over 40 we funded over 40 applications during that school year.
Is that normal? Is 40 applications or 40 projects a pretty normal amount for the foundation to be able to fund?
Well, over the years, they've really increased. The cycles have kind of ebbed and flowed, but since I became executive director in 2023, we've watched the numbers slowly tick up, particularly in our September and November rounds. And in September of 2024, we received the largest number of applications we received in 20 plus years, which was 35. And in one sense, it's amazing to see all these wonderful applications, but in another sense, it's very stressful because you can't fund them all.
Right, right. And I'm sure part of that is just a consequence of the decrease in funding in education in general. Like, their teachers are often being asked to do more and more with less and less.
Mm-hmm.
And they're sometimes forced to seek outside sources to make things happen that are beyond the textbook, that are, as you mentioned, the experiential ideas that actually speak to lots and lots of students, because many kids are not going to remember the book they read or the textbook that they worked out of, but they are going to remember the drone they flew.
They absolutely are. And I was having another conversation with a Superintendent Dupere this morning about student identified needs. And so we talk about standards of learning. And so that's kind of a one size fits all model. And none of us really thrive in a one size fits all model.
Right.
And so the grants that the foundation provides really give the teachers and the students the ability to put boots on the ground and take that classroom content and operationalize it in settings where they can really understand how to apply what they're learning.
Sure.
That experiential education is so important.
So speaking of, now we can talk about probably your favorite part of this entire program, which is some of the projects themselves. Since you've been on the board, since you've been the executive director, you've seen lots of applications come through. You've granted, with the assistance of your board, lots and lots of monies to teachers to make projects happen. Can you give me just a handful of examples of your favorite ones that you've seen over the last few years?
Well, I don't know about favorite. They're all my favorite.
They're all your favorite.
However, some of the ones that come to mind, especially in the 2024-2025 school years, are the programs that elevate the creative arts, music and theater. I really enjoy seeing the programs where, we fund musical instruments and the performances that the students do, or we fund theater programs and projects. And I have to tell you, Manita Elementary's greenhouse, I love that project too. Mrs. Lee at Manita has just an incredible advocate for the utilization of these skills that students learn in the greenhouse. I love that program.
Right. Well, and a greenhouse is one of those sustainable programs. Like, you get it once, but you can teach those kids over and over and over again through the same single resource that you got from a grant one time.
It was, and looking over the past 20 plus years of the programs that were funded 20 years ago and are being represented today. And there was another greenhouse at another school that we initially funded about 20 years ago, and then we refunded the revamp of that greenhouse.
Yeah.
So we still see that sustainability.
Yeah, that's awesome. What are some other? I know STEM is real important for lots of people. Though I would say STEAM. If you add arts to the picture there, as the Bauer Center for the Arts, I'm a little biased towards the arts. What are some of the science and technology projects that you've seen come across your table?
Oh my heavens! I mean, the EnviroShed, the drones. The drones have been incredibly popular, thanks to Mrs. Watson, who's a teacher at Forest Middle School, who's really innovative in getting Bedford County Public Schools, not only Forest Middle School, but Bedford County Public Schools, really present and active and engaged in drone technology, because that really is the wave of the future.
Yeah.
Well, not even the future, the wave of the present.
Right. And she was there today. And it's so interesting to talk to her. And I talked to her today, and I'm sure she did not remember the first conversation I had. I've not seen somebody so passionate about the projects that we help fund. Like, she is passionate about drones and what it can be and what its effect on the future can be. And I'm really happy that as a foundation, we were able to help realize that idea for her.
We do, and that's really what I enjoy too. Is another grant that we funded in the last school year at Stanton River was the microscopes. One of the teachers reached out for 5 microscopes and had planned to ask for 5 additional at each round, and we were able to fund all of her microscopes in one round. So I think we funded maybe 20. All at once. And that was nice to be able to meet the need immediately rather than over several years.
Yeah. So as I'm going to circle back to what we had said earlier, that these are all your financial streams and your revenue streams are private. Where are you getting those beyond grants?
Well, the grants from, again, the Greater Lynchburg Community Foundation, Schul Foundation, Bedford Community Health Foundation, Strubonts. But we also have institutional donors like BWXT, Georgia Pacific, Ford Mays, different organizations, businesses around Bedford County that have funded us for 20 years, Southside Electric, tried and true donors. And we also have individual donors who have been very, very helpful. So folks who have new donors and donors who've been donating to us for 20 plus years.
Yeah, that was the plug I was leading into. So you do accept individual donations?
Oh, absolutely. And it's one of the things we're trying to really elevate. As corporate priorities are changing, we really are going to rely increasingly on individual donors, families, to support our foundation.
And I'm going to encourage those individual donors. As a person who's on that grant review committee and votes through some of these grants, sometimes we have high dollar grants and sometimes we have ones that are very, very affordable. And just your donation or a donation between you and a few people or a few families can be the difference on whether or not a small grant comes through and that entire project gets to happen.
That's very true. I think the lowest dollar amount we've ever had was, I think, $37 for a whiteboard, which we funded. And then the highest dollar, I mean, we've received requests, unfortunately, that we can't fund for $10,000-$15,000 for AV equipment, auditorium equipment that we're just not equipped to fund. So every dollar that we receive does make a difference. But I would say that our mean grant application is usually about $1,000.
Yeah. Those are the ones that got to me, anywhere from $500 to $1,000. And there's part of me that just loves the idea that, my single donation of a $500 donation could fund an entire project. And I'm hoping that people who are listening can think that any amount, even a $20 or a $37 donation could help a teacher get what they need.
I will say that, in our recent audit, we found that 94% of every dollar that we receive goes directly to the teachers and students. And I've never seen a nonprofit organization that keeps its administrative costs so low that it can donate 94 cents of every dollar right back to the students.
Yeah, that's actually amazing that so much of those resources go straight back to them. What are your dreams for the Educational Foundation?
Oh, my dreams for the Educational
Besides
Foundation.
winning the lottery and being able to fund everything.
Right. No, I think it's to continue doing what we do in partnership with the teachers and educators and students and administration. I mean, we could not do what we do without the administration of Bedford County Public Schools, but just lean into that relationship and grow it and continue to fund these unique partnerships. We have our tried and true grant applications that we receive every year, but like Connect to Learn during COVID, where we funded I think $15,000 for families to have internet connectivity where they didn't before in the rural parts of Bedford County, or the comprehensive mental health program, or the collaboration that we pulled together to support Big Island Elementary School's backpack program. I'm very proud of that partnership with Sedalia Baptist Church and the Sedalia Center and Big Island Elementary. They had 32 students who were food insecure, and the resources ran out for those backpacks. Every Friday they would go home with a backpack full of food and supplies. And for various reasons, they were not able to continue that program. So Georgia Pacific and Chris Hughes really put a call out and said, we need some help here. And so I'm very proud that we were able to pull together these community partners with some grant funds from the Schul Foundation. And I'm very proud to say that the numbers have improved. So instead of 32 students receiving backpacks, it's about 21. So it's really made a big difference.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So before we wrap up, as I'm looking at our time here, we're getting closer than I thought. Is there anything else I left out? Anything that you'd love to mention or talk about the Educational Foundation and what it does for teachers, schools, families, and students?
No, I think I would like to invite people to follow us on social media. Our Facebook page is active, and we would love new followers. Also, to reach out to us at www.bedfordeducation.com or email us at info@bedfordeducation.com. If you have ideas, if you'd like to support us, we just want to hear from them. We want to hear from the community about what we can do to support you.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you to the foundation for all of the support that they give our community. It's the perfect segue to talk about where I'm heading next. So this year, the Bedford Area Educational Foundation is the official sponsor of the Bedford County Public School art shows, which are being hosted at the Bauer Center. So we certainly thank you for that. This is a yearly series of 4 exhibits that we have hosted for a long, long time. I tried to look it up, and it was, I think, 16 or 17 years now that it's been going on. And it highlights the visual arts programs in every school in the district from elementary through high school by displaying their talented students' works in our galleries. So we run 4 different cycles, 2 elementary shows because there's too many to get them all into one middle school show, 1 high school show. The elementary show just went up. It is gorgeous. We also hold a reception for each one of those exhibits, the first one of which is this Thursday at 5 p.m. So you were all invited to come and see those works from half of the district's elementary schools. It's always a packed house full of energy as these students show their loved ones the pieces they've created. So we hope to see you there at this reception. And don't forget, there is always something happening at the Bauer Center for the Arts, where we strive to bring arts of all kind to everyone in our community. So this exhibit, as I mentioned, will be up until the end of the week for the public to enjoy. It will be followed by a dual exhibit, Behind the Lens 2, a curated photography exhibit, and our 2025 Susie V. Meister Artist in Residence, Andrea Wild Jengaleski's culminating show. The gallery hours are 11 to 3 Tuesday through Saturday. Stop by anytime to see it. Our annual Mistletoe Makers Market will be on Small Business Saturday, November 29th. Tickets are just $2 or a donation of art supplies for our free little art gallery and our outreach programming. There'll be over 30 artisans showing off their wares, and we'll have cookie decorations and crafts for the families. Plus, we've brought in a caricature artist and Santa and Mrs. Claus. Kicking off Bedford's Christmas weekend on December 5th, we'll be hosting a Celtic Christmas with Kinfolk. And then the next day, we will have our final Cab Kids Free Family Art Day immediately following the Centertown Christmas Parade on December 6th. We'll be making Christmas ornaments and have a build your own hot chocolate bar that day. And that is just a glimpse of what the Bauer Center for the Arts offers. For more details on all of our classes, events, programs, and exhibitions, you can visit bowercenter.org, follow us on social media, or you can just stop in and say hello. Thanks to you for listening, and we'll see you all soon.